All right, let's face it. Nutrition labels can sometimes feel like a secret code.
Yeah.
But don't worry, you don't need a decoder ring for this one. Today, we're diving deep into how to read nutrition labels like a pro, an article that's all about giving you the knowledge to make food choices that actually help you reach your weight loss goals.
I think it's really important to realize how much control we give up when we just kind of blindly trust labels. Or even worse, just avoid them altogether because they're so confusing.
Yeah, totally. And this article jumps right in with the ever so important serving size. It's funny, like, I used to think serving size was just a suggestion, not a rule.
Right.
I remember this one time, I ate a whole bag of, like, healthy popcorn, thinking it was one serving.
Oh,
It was like 4.
that's a classic example of where serving size can really trip people up, especially when it comes to weight management. It's like the foundation of the whole nutrition label.
Yeah.
All the information, the
Cool.
calories, the fat, the carbs, everything, it's all based on that specific serving size.
Yeah. It's like thinking you're spending $5 when you actually swipe your card for 20. So have you ever caught yourself underestimating serving sizes?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What are some, like, sneaky ones
Yeah.
people should watch out for?
Trail mixes are a big one for me. They seem healthy. But a serving is often just a tiny handful. And those single serving yogurt cups, a lot of people don't realize those are often 2 servings, not 1.
Good call-outs. And that brings us to the next big topic in the article, total calories.
Yeah.
This is where the whole calories in, calories out principle comes into play, which is really at the heart of weight loss.
Exactly. To lose weight, you need to create a calorie deficit, meaning you burn more calories than you consume. Now, this doesn't mean obsessing over every single calorie, but it does mean having a general awareness of your intake.
Right, it's about making informed choices,
Yeah.
not feeling like you're constantly doing math in your head. But speaking of tricky calculations, the article also mentions empty calories. What are those exactly? And why are they especially important for someone focusing on weight loss?
Empty calories are basically like those sneaky calories. They give you very little nutritional value. Think sugary drinks, processed snacks, that kind of thing. They can really add up quickly without actually filling you up, making it harder to stay within a calorie deficit for weight loss.
It's like filling your gas tank with water.
Yeah.
You might feel like you're doing something, but you're not actually getting the fuel you need to run.
That's a great analogy. It's about choosing foods that give you a good return on your calorie investment, so to speak.
Okay, so we've talked about serving sizes and total calories. The next thing the article dives into is macronutrients, those building blocks of nutrition, carbs, fats, and protein. But it's not just about knowing they exist. It's about understanding how they specifically impact weight loss.
Absolutely. When it comes to weight loss, we want to focus on how these macros can work for us, not against us. Let's start with carbs. The article emphasizes the importance of choosing the right types of carbs for sustained energy and satiety.
So not all carbs are created equal.
Not quite. Complex carbs, like those found in whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, are digested more slowly, providing a steady release of energy and keeping you feeling fuller for longer. On the other hand, simple carbs, like those found in sugary drinks and processed foods, can lead to blood sugar spikes and crashes, which can trigger cravings and make weight loss more challenging.
So it's about choosing carbs that fuel our bodies efficiently
Yeah.
and keep those hunger pangs at bay. Now, what about fats? They've gotten a bad rap over the years, but the article stresses that there are good fats and bad fats.
Right. Healthy fats like monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats are actually essential for our bodies. They help us absorb vitamins, regulate hormones, and even promote satiety, which can be a huge help with weight management. These are the fats you find in foods like avocados, nuts, seeds, and fatty fish.
So it's not about fearing fat. It's about choosing the right kind of fat.
Got it.
And finally, what about protein? I know it's important for building muscle, but how does it specifically help with weight loss?
Protein is crucial for weight loss for a few reasons. First, it helps you feel full and satisfied, which can help prevent overeating. Second, it helps preserve lean muscle mass, which is important because muscle burns more calories at rest than fat. And third, it actually takes more energy for your body to digest protein compared to carbs and fats. So you burn slightly more calories in the process.
Wow, protein's a triple threat. So we've got complex carbs for sustained energy, healthy fats for satiety and hormone regulation, and protein for fullness, muscle preservation, and a little metabolic boost. It's like assembling a winning team for weight loss.
Exactly. And imagine if you could get rid of stubborn fat and support weight loss in a simple and healthy way while you are at home.
You can. Find out more by visiting https://rebrand.lifesolution-weightloss, or by clicking on the link in the description of this podcast. But before you do that, let's keep going with our deep dive.
We've covered the macronutrients, but the article doesn't stop there. It goes on to talk about the importance of micronutrients, those essential vitamins and minerals that often get overlooked. Micronutrients may not provide energy, like macronutrients do, but they play a vital role in countless bodily functions, from immune health and energy production to metabolism and even mood regulation.
I can definitely relate to that. I always feel more energized after a meal packed with veggies compared to like a bag of chips. It's like my body is actually getting what it needs to thrive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when it comes to weight loss, certain micronutrients can be particularly helpful. For example, some studies suggest that adequate intake of vitamin D may play a role in regulating appetite and fat metabolism.
Interesting. So it's not just about calories and macros. It's about making sure we're getting a diverse range of nutrients to support our overall health and weight loss goals. And speaking of nutrients, this article explains the term I've always been a bit confused about, daily value or percent DV. What's the significance of that percentage on nutrition labels?
The DV is a great tool to quickly assess how much of a particular nutrient a serving of that food contributes to your daily recommended intake. It's based on a 2,000-calorie diet, so it's a general guideline. A DV of 20% or higher is considered high for a nutrient, while 5% or lower is considered low.
So if I'm looking for a good source of fiber, I'd want to choose foods with a higher DV for fiber, right?
Exactly. It's a quick way to compare different products and make choices that align with your nutritional needs.
That's super helpful. It's like having a cheat sheet for making healthier choices. Okay, so we've covered serving sizes, calories, macros, micronutrients, and even percent DV. The article wraps up with what I think is the most exciting part, decoding the ingredients list. This is where we become nutrition detectives, right?
Absolutely. The ingredients list can reveal so much about a food that the nutrition facts panel might not. It's like peeking behind the curtain to see what's really going on.
Okay, so how do we become master ingredient detectives? What are the key things to look for?
First, remember that ingredients are listed in descending order of quantity. So the ingredient that makes up the largest portion of the food is listed first, and so on. So if you see sugar listed as the first or second ingredient, that's a sign that the food is probably high in added sugar, even if it's marketed as healthy.
Ah, those sneaky marketing tactics. So a shorter ingredient list with recognizable whole foods at the top is generally a good sign. But what about those hidden sugars? The article mentions they have a knack for disguising themselves on the ingredient list.
Oh, they're masters of disguise. We've already mentioned a few, like high fructose corn syrup and agave nectar, but there are many more to watch out for. Things like dextrose, maltose rice syrup, and even fruit juice concentrate can be sources of added sugar.
Wow. It's like sugar has an entire costume department. So we need to be extra vigilant when scanning those labels. But beyond just the order and the names, are there any other red flags to look for in the ingredients list?
Absolutely. Watch out for artificial sweeteners, flavors, colors, and preservatives. These are often added to enhance flavor, extend shelf life, or make the food look more appealing. But they can have some negative impacts on our health.
So it's about choosing foods that are as close to their natural state as possible, minimally processed and free of those artificial additives.
Got it. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, from serving sizes and calories to macros, micronutrients, and even the ingredient list. I feel like we've cracked the code of nutrition labels.
You've definitely earned your detective badge. But remember, knowledge is only powerful when we put it into practice. The real challenge is applying this knowledge in real-life situations.
That's a great point. It's one thing to understand labels in theory, but it's another thing to actually use that knowledge when we're standing in the grocery store aisle, faced with endless options. Any tips for navigating those real-world scenarios?
Definitely. First and foremost, don't shop hungry. When you're hungry, everything looks good. And those impulse buys are much more tempting. Oh, that's so true. I've definitely fallen victim to the hungry shopper trap before.
Oh, we've all been there. Another helpful strategy is to have a plan. Before you even set foot in the store, think about what meals you want to make for the week and make a list of the ingredients you need.
So it's like going in with a mission and not letting those strategically placed snacks distract us.
Exactly. And once you're in the store, don't be afraid to take your time. Read those labels carefully. Compare different brands and products, and look for those hidden sugars and unhealthy fats.
It's an investment in our health, right? A few extra minutes in the store can save us from making choices we might regret later.
Absolutely. And speaking of choices, let's talk about another challenging situation. Eating out, whether it's a restaurant, a social gathering, or even just grabbing takeout. How can we navigate those situations while still being mindful of our nutrition goals.
Ooh, eating out can definitely be tricky. It's like all bets are off when someone else is cooking right, especially since we can't scrutinize every ingredient.
Not necessarily. While you don't always have complete control, there are still strategies you can use. For example, most restaurants now have their menus available online. Take a look beforehand and choose a dish that aligns with your goals.
So it's about doing our homework and planning ahead, even for those spontaneous outings.
Exactly. And once you're at the restaurant, don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask about cooking methods, portion sizes, or even if they can make substitutions. Most restaurants are happy to accommodate dietary requests.
It's good to know. I think sometimes we're hesitant to ask, but it's our health. So we deserve to be informed and make choices that feel good for us.
Absolutely. And remember, it's all about finding a balance. You can enjoy a meal out without completely throwing your healthy habits out the window. It's about making informed choices and listening to your body.
I love that. It's about enjoying life while still taking care of ourselves. And speaking of taking care of ourselves, let's touch on another crucial aspect of nutrition, emotional eating. We've talked a lot about the technical side of things, like reading labels and making healthy choices. But what about the emotional side of eating? How can we address those cravings and emotional triggers that often lead us to make less than ideal choices?
That's such an important point because let's be real, sometimes we eat not because we're physically hungry, but because we're bored, stressed, or feeling emotional.
It's like food becomes a coping mechanism,
Mm,
a way to soothe those uncomfortable feelings. I know I've definitely been there.
we all have. And the first step is simply becoming aware of those emotional triggers. What situations or emotions tend to lead you to reach for food for comfort?
It's a great question. I think for me, it's often stress and anxiety. When I'm feeling overwhelmed, I tend to crave sugary or salty snacks.
Yeah. That's a common one. And once you identify those triggers, you can start to develop healthier coping mechanisms. Instead of turning to food for comfort, try activities like exercise meditation, spending time with loved ones, or journaling.
So it's about finding alternative outlets for those emotions, rather than relying on food as a crutch.
Exactly. And if you do find yourself reaching for food when you're not physically hungry, try to pause and ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? Once you identify the emotion, you can address it in a more constructive way.
That's such a powerful tool. It's about bringing awareness to our eating habits
Yeah.
and understanding the underlying emotions that might be driving them. And speaking of driving our actions, the article also mentions the importance of setting realistic goals. It's not about striving for perfection, but about making sustainable changes that we can stick with for the long haul.
Absolutely. Small, consistent changes are far more effective
Yeah.
than drastic, unsustainable ones. It's about finding what works for you and your lifestyle and making gradual adjustments over time.
So instead of trying to overhaul our entire diet overnight, we can focus on making one or two small changes at a time.
Exactly. For example, if you're used to drinking soda every day, try swapping it out for water with lemon, or unsweetened tea a few times a week. Or if you tend to eat a lot of processed snacks, start by adding in a piece of fruit or a handful of nuts as a healthier alternative.
Those are great examples. It's about making those small swaps that add up over time. But sometimes those small changes can feel, well, small. How can we stay motivated and keep those healthy habits going, especially when those cravings hit or we face setbacks?
That's where having a support system can be incredibly helpful. Whether it's a friend, family member, or even an online community, having people to cheer you on and hold you accountable can make all the difference.
That makes sense. It's like having a team of cheerleaders in your corner, reminding you of your goals
Yeah.
and celebrating your wins, big or small.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about being perfect. There will be days when you slip up or make choices that aren't ideal. The key is to not let those setbacks derail your progress.
So it's about having self-compassion and giving ourselves permission to be human. We're all on a journey, and there will be bumps along the way.
Absolutely. And speaking of journeys, I think it's time to wrap up part 2 of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground today, from deciphering those tricky labels to navigating real-life scenarios and even addressing the emotional side of eating.
I feel like we've trekked through the Amazon of serving sizes, battled calorie counts, and even learned to speak fluent macro and micronutrient.
Yeah.
Just when you think you've mastered the art of label reading, though,
Yeah.
there's always more to discover.
It's like we've gotten our nutrition detective badges, but now we're being promoted to special agents, taking those skills and applying them to the real world.
I love that analogy. So what kind of top secret missions await us in this final part of our deep dive?
Let's talk about a concept that's often compared to nutrition, personal finance. Just like we need to budget our money wisely, we also need to budget our calories and nutrients.
I've never thought of it that way before, but it makes so much sense. We're constantly making choices about how we spend our money, and those choices add up over time, just like our food choices.
Exactly. And just like overspending can lead to debt, overeating can lead to weight gain and other health issues.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between enjoying ourselves and making responsible choices that support our long-term well-being.
Absolutely. And just like with finances, it's helpful to have a plan. We talked earlier about meal planning and grocery lists, but it's also helpful to have a general idea of how many calories you need each day and what types of foods will help you meet your nutrition goals.
So it's not about restricting ourselves, but about making informed choices that align with our overall health and weight loss goals. It's like creating a personalized spending plan for our calories and nutrients.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be times when you splurge or make choices that aren't ideal. The key is to learn from those experiences and keep moving forward. Don't let a few missteps derail your entire financial plan, or in this case, your health plan.
That's such an encouraging reminder. It's about progress, not perfection. And speaking of progress, let's talk about something that's often overlooked in the nutrition conversation: the power of small changes.
That's a great point. We often think we need to make these huge changes to see results, but honestly, small sustainable changes can have a huge impact over time.
It's like the compound interest of healthy habits.
Exactly. For example, instead of ditching sugary drinks for water all at once, try adding a slice of lemon or cucumber to your water to make it more appealing. Or instead of getting rid of all processed foods, start by swapping out one processed snack for a piece of fruit or some nuts.
Those are great examples. It's about making those small swaps that add up over time, just like those small, consistent deposits into a savings account.
Precisely. And remember, consistency is key. It's not about being perfect every day, but about making healthy choices most of the time.
I love that. It's about creating sustainable habits that we can stick with for the long run, not just quick fixes that fizzle out after a few weeks. And speaking of sustainable habits, let's talk about something that can make a big difference in our overall health: cooking more meals at home.
Absolutely. Cooking at home is one of the most empowering things you can do for your health and your wallet. When you cook at home, you have total control over the ingredients and preparation methods. You can choose fresh whole foods, limit added sugars, and unhealthy fats, and experiment with different flavors and cuisines.
It's like being your own personal chef.
Yeah.
And you get to decide exactly what goes into your food, which is a huge win for those of us trying to be more mindful of our nutrition.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be complicated. There are tons of easy, healthy recipes available online and in cookbooks. Start with simple meals and gradually build your skills.
It's like learning a new language. The more you practice, the more fluent you become. And the more you cook at home, the more confident you'll feel in making healthy choices.
I love that analogy. It's about embracing the joy of cooking and creating delicious, nutritious meals that nourish our bodies. And speaking of nourishment, let's talk about one of the most important aspects of healthy eating: mindful eating.
Mindful eating. I've heard that term before, but I'm not totally sure what it means.
Mindful eating is about paying attention to our food and our eating experience. It's about slowing down, savoring each bite, and tuning into our body's cues of hunger and fullness.
So it's the opposite of mindless snacking while watching TV or scrolling through our phone.
Exactly. When we eat mindfully, we're more likely to enjoy our food, feel satisfied, and make healthier choices. We're actually present with our food rather than just shoveling it in on autopilot.
That makes sense. It's about bringing awareness to the act of eating rather than just going through the motions. Are there any simple ways to practice mindful eating?
Absolutely. One simple way is to put away distractions. Sit down at a table and focus on your food. Notice the colors, textures, and aromas. Chew slowly and savor each bite. Really pay attention to the flavors and how the food makes you feel.
Those are great tips. I'm definitely going to try incorporating more mindful eating into my routine. It sounds like a great way to enhance our enjoyment of food and reconnect with our body's natural hunger and fullness signals.
It truly is. And remember, like any new skill, mindful eating takes practice. Don't get discouraged if you find your mind wandering or you slip back into old habits. Just gently bring your attention back to the present moment. and the food in front of you.
That's reassuring to hear. It's about progress, not perfection. Right?
Exactly. And speaking of progress, I think we've made some amazing strides in our deep dive today, from personal finance analogies to small changes, home cooking, and mindful eating. It's been an incredible journey.
It has. And before we wrap up this final part of our deep dive into nutrition labels, I want to remind everyone about that amazing link in the description for more information on getting rid of stubborn fat. It's a fantastic resource that can help you take your health journey to the next level.
Absolutely. Take advantage of that resource and keep those labels in check. And remember, you are capable of making informed choices that support your health and well-being. It's all about taking that knowledge and putting it into action.
That's a wrap, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into nutrition labels. We hope you feel empowered and equipped to navigate the world of food with confidence and make choices that support your weight loss goals and overall health. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.